you're going to leave this video with what I've seen to be generally not applicable to everyone, but for the general population, the best testosterone number to be at on TRT in terms of nanograms per deciliter. And if you can get to this number, while estrogen is still in your sweet spot range, you will be dialed in. Should we be at 600 to 800 nanograms per deciliter? Right? In that case, estrogen is going to fall in a very reasonable place. Anabolism and energy should be pretty good. And in that range, you'll still feel like you're on TRT. But is there something better? Should you be markedly supraphysiologic? Should you be 1,300, 1,500, 1,700, 2,000 nanograms per deciliter total testosterone? Well, I certainly have seen men that need to take 350 milligrams of testosterone cypionate a week in order to be dialed in on TRT. But that's not the number. So I'm going to break down the actual total testosterone number in nanograms per deciliter that you're going to feel incredible, anabolic, libido, erections will be great for the majority of men, assuming you have high enough DHT and assuming estrogen is in your range. But before I give you that number to shoot for, let's talk about both sides of the extreme. I have seen people dial in on TRT with above 2,000 nanograms per deciliter of total testosterone. That's massively superphysiologic. Those dudes are primed for the gym with incredible Greek godlike energy. In order for them to grow, they really don't have to push that hard in the gym. And in order for them to maintain, there's not a whole lot they have to do, period. Operating at the 2,000 nanograms per deciliter range of total testosterone gives you a significant advantage in terms of energy, mental power, sustained energy throughout the course of a day, the ability to be productive in life, the ability to be assertive and go after the shit you want. But if I analyze those protocols that have worked for people, there are elements of the protocol that are convoluted and potentially unsustainable. For example, I've seen these numbers before. 2,400 nanograms per deciliter total testosterone, estradiol at 106 picograms per milliliter, and that alone was a bad protocol. Erections were able to initiate. Libido was fine, but there was no sustenance and rigidity in erections, right? That's a failed protocol. That same user added 25 milligrams of proviron a day. That's all. Still sitting up there at 2,400 total tests. The proviron cut the E2 to low 70s, which is actually pretty impressive with proviron. It doesn't usually inhibit aromatase that much, but it knocked it down 30-something points. And there, a person was totally dialed in. But let's analyze the protocol. This was 500 IU of HCG 3 times a week and 280 milligrams of testosterone a week split every 3.5 days with 25 milligrams of proviron. The side effects: elevated hematocrit, slightly elevated blood pressure, occasional insomnia, and what ended up being massive hair shedding, likely induced by the serum levels of DHT, obviously, but proviron. Proviron is about as nuclear as you can get, with hair for some individuals. So what does that make 2,400 nanograms per deciliter? Okay, you feel incredible, but you've got to cut the estrogen down. You've got to have a strong DHT-like agonist at the receptor, lowering SHBG, increasing free DHT, controlling aromatase enzymes to an extent, and probably blocking estrogen at the gene expression level. It's a convoluted protocol. And on top of that, you got hair loss. If you're frustrated with TRT and need to dial in specifically libido and erections, energy and anabolism, and fix sexual dysfunction, hire me. I am a coach that has been working for 7 years to fix complex sexual dysfunction on TRT, and you can book me in under a minute at livecortex.com or down in the description of this video. Using testosterone cream is the most advanced thing you can do on TRT, and I created a video course showing you specifically how to dial in libido and erections on test cream, and you can get that also down in the description of this video. If you need to dial it on cypionate, yeah, it's hard, but I've built a video course on that. The only instructional video course that shows you how to dial in test cypionate for sexual function, also down in the description. When it comes to the total testosterone number to shoot for, regarding the 2,000 to 2,400 nanograms per deciliter range, I'm going to say that is not the best range. Let's take a protocol on the extreme other end of the spectrum. This is with transcrotal cream. It is 2.5 clicks of 200 milligram cream per day, all on the scrotum in the morning, 125 IU of HCG every day, injected subcutaneously in belly fat. That took at peak of the cream, right, which peaks that day and starts troughing later on that day and that night, user to 750 nanograms per deciliter of total testosterone. Estrogen between 15 and 25 picograms per milliliter. And guess how that person felt in terms of sexual function? Literally amazing. Spontaneous erections throughout the day. That's something that a lot of people on TRT, even if they're dialed in otherwise, have a hard time achieving. Sex drive that was animalistic and primal. Sufficient anabolism, but not substantial anabolism. So you look at that and go, okay, that person's dialed in. So maybe 700. 700 is what I should shoot for. Well, in the context of cream, in this case, which is pretty counter to estradiol, guess where the trough numbers were on estrogen? Between 10 and 15 picograms per milliliter. That's where the trough numbers were. So dialed in on sexual function, but one major side effect. Extreme game-stopping joint pain, to the point where this user was getting injured at the gym from doing menial exercises, lifting weights, and it would take weeks to recover. He'd have to not go to the gym for weeks, do rehabilitation on, said muscles that were strained, and then he'd be okay to go back into the gym again, eventually to have joint pain throughout, and then to injure himself again. All that said, there are plenty of ranges of total testosterone that you can dial in on, especially in terms of sexual function. Some of them might be convoluted with the addition of mesterolone or proviron to control estrogen and give you more DHT inputs. Some of them might be very, very DHT-centric protocols like scrotal cream at a reasonably modest dose with a little bit of HCG so that estrogen's in that 20 range and total test is up there 750, maybe 800 at peak. Rockin' erections, kill libido. Side effects. So this is what I found about the best number to shoot for in total testosterone levels for men that are on TRT to feel great, be noticeably anabolic, to have energy throughout the day, have great libido, and solid sustainable erections. With, before I give it to you, the important caveat that this is not going to work for everyone. It's just, if you put all men together that I've looked at on TRT, this is the place that most of them do best at. That is the 900 to 1200 nanograms per deciliter range in total testosterone. On those protocols, listen, the energy, the anabolism, it's a given. You're going to have them. Masculinity, the assertiveness, the feeling like a man should feel, it's just a shoo-in. You're going to have them at 900 to 1200 nanograms per deciliter total testosterone. But what about the sexual function? Sexual function in the golden range, 900 to 1200, on TRT depends solely on keeping the androgen-estrogen ratio in the right place, which you can only manipulate via your HCG dose or dosing frequency. So the people up there at 1100, call it, that are doing daily injections of testosterone, they never really get in a potent androgen-estrogen ratio that's proportionally favorable to androgens, because estrogen is just constantly right behind. It's overlapping every day. You never get any degree of trough, and there is never a point at which you stop converting, at least in large part, testosterone to estradiol. At the same time, as I've described on recent content, some people just need a surge in androgens that is enough to cross an androgenic threshold for them to have the mental side of the libido, all the limbic system, hypothalamic, dopamine stuff, as well as good erections. Think endothelial optimization, local DHT at penile tissues, and proper nitric oxide signaling. Sometimes, if people spread it out further to every third day, that's even better. They get a true trough on estradiol, and when they re-inject again, they're peaking on androgens, and the ratio stays in the right place. And they stay in that range of 900 to 1200 nanograms per deciliter total testosterone. The doses that typically tend to get people in that arena, and the frequencies that get people in that arena, are between 130 and 170 milligrams a week of testosterone. That's where people end up in the 900 to 1200 range, and it's usually, if of course sexual function is going to be intact, injected less frequently. Any other protocol besides every day, this can work. So it can work with every other day injections, it can work with every third day injections, it can work with every fourth day injections. But the injection frequency, specifically a little further apart. Again, every other day can work for some people. It's got to be enough androgen signal at once. Because if you inject every other day or every third day, your subcutaneous or intramuscular oil depot is going to be bigger than many little droplets of your daily injection depot. Thus, you're going to release more testosterone into the bloodstream after it being hydrolyzed at once. The second major factor that matters, and having people be able to dial in at 900 to 1200 nanograms per deciliter of total testosterone, is purely their HCG dose in international units. The thing I see the most is people pushing 250 every other day, 200 every day, 300 every other day, 500 3 times a week, things like that. You're just going to push the estrogen over your range, and you might have enough androgens, but the estrogen's mucking that up. The ratio's wacky, and you have soft erections. Libido will probably be intact at that point, but erections are not going to be sustainable. The protocols that work in this regard are 130 to 170 milligrams of test every other day split, or every third day split, with like between 60 and 125 IU of HCG a day. That's where this works. That's where you've got your 900, 950, 1,000, 1,100, 1,200 nanograms per deciliter. You are super strong at the gym. Your body looks strong. You look saucy. You kind of look like you're on a mild testosterone cycle, or otherwise anabolic steroid. Your energy is maxed from the moment you wake up until the moment you go to bed. And you have enough androgenic drive for libido, and erections are incredible. Now, what does this all depend on, right? Can anybody just go to 150, 170 with a little bit of HCG, and they're dosing their testosterone kind of infrequently and end up in the right place? Well, unfortunately, the answer is no, right? Because some people over aromatize. On those doses, they're going to be sitting at 70, 80 picograms per milliliter estradiol, 66 picograms per milliliter of estradiol, and it just isn't going to work for them, right? They're going to need to be in the 25, 35 to 40 picograms per milliliter of estradiol range in order to make that work, which means if you're sitting at 30% body fat, it's not going to work. If you're drinking 4 to 6 beers every night, and therefore you've got elevated ALT and AST, slowing down your ability to metabolize estradiol from your body, 1,200 is not going to work. So in order to make the total testosterone number of 900 to 1,200 nanograms per deciliter work sufficiently for you, insofar as estrogen landing in a sweet spot, favorable libido, and erectile quality range with a proper ratio of DHT, specifically androgens generally, to estradiol in the 130 to 170 milligram a week range of testosterone quantity, with injections that are spread out, as long as they're not every day, reasonable, modest, but still functional low-end doses of HCG. You've got to be a normal aromatizer to make that work, okay? And that's the problem with TRT. This is the reason that the proponents that discuss mainly the health optimization aspects of getting yourself to tolerate higher levels of TRT, i.e. Man Medicine, Dave Lee, there's probably a few others out there. This is what they're talking about. Want to be in that range, your body's got to be able to tolerate that range. So cut down the body fat, right? Reduce the booze. You can still have a couple drinks a night, right? That's not going to markedly elevate your liver enzymes and stop you from clearing estradiol. But you can't be on the extreme ends of this, right? If you're an everyday smoker and you smoke even a half a pack a day, you know how much vasoconstriction that is with all that nicotine? If you smoke cigars, you know how much nicotine you're getting when you smoke cigars? People get nic sick from that. Nicotine sick. Dude, it's a vasoconstrictor. I love nicotine. I put patches on. I have a nicotine vape I use every now and then because I kind of just like it. I don't smoke cigarettes or cigars or anything like that, but it's a vasoconstrictor, right? So if you're blasting the nicotine in an overloaded capacity, you're probably going to have some degree of erectile dysfunction and not be able to tolerate higher levels of testosterone. But definitely, I have felt my best. My clients feel their best. And generally, not everybody, want to make that clear again, generally, most people feel best if these conditions are met with 900 to 1,200 nanograms per deciliter total testosterone. The challenge, of course, with that is manipulating a protocol so that you can land at 900 to 1,200 and have estrogen in your sweet spot range with functional testicles so that you have killer energy, anabolism, and libido and sexual function. But that is why I built a list of elite-level, targeted, science-based TRT products, ranging from mastering libido and erections on TRT, the sexual function playbook. This just launched. It is our most popular product. Teaches you how to dial in on every ester with this logic infused. You can get it literally now. It's down in the description of this video. Source list. Listen, sometimes to dial in and get yourself to be able to manage estrogen. Sometimes a little bit of primobolan is what dials people in on TRT, and they're sitting at 1,200. You know, DHT itself, Proviron, Anavar, all those things, very useful add-ons in the right context. Grab source list. That's where you can find it. Dialing in on testosterone cream seems easy, but it can actually be challenging. That's why I created a video course that explains how to do it from the ground up. It does not have to take you a long time, and you can have stellar erections, great libido, and feel amazing on test cream, and I created a video course for it down below. If all else fails, or if you don't want to go through any of that stuff and you'd rather just pay an expert to help you dial in your TRT protocol, that's what I do. You can book me for either coaching or a single session call in which I'll create 3 to 5 action routes on an online document with protocols that is yours forever. We are nearing the end of the April intake TRT coaching window. This is a discounted window that we do twice a year. I've got 5 slots left. We started at 25 slots. Once these are booked, I cannot book any other slots for at least a month or 2, and only the single session calls will be available. All right, so go book me, livecortex.com. Go look at the reviews. The moment you book, I'm reaching out to you, and you and I get on the fact-finding call immediately. Then we start. If you're trying to fix libido, erection, sensation, climax problems, well-being, anabolism, dial in a TRT protocol for your physiology. That is all I do. I'd love to have you on board. Lastly, dial in on testosterone cypionate using the strategies I've put together over 7 years in coaching and a video course called Mastering Testosterone Cypionate down below. All right, my brother in Tess. It's been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you. Need you to do me 2 favors. Number 1, like the video. If anything I said resonated with you in any way, just smash the like button. Otherwise, dude, we talk about this all day on this channel. I mean, this is the real stuff. We have a massive community of men on TRT in the comments section. We're one of the largest growing channels here, and I would love to have you on board, man. I'll see you in the comment section, bro. Sub and let's get it done. Kick ass, rock on, enjoy the rest of your day. Much more content coming this week, and I'll talk to you in the next one.